A resident lifestyle profile to make the residents feel welcome and a part of the community as soon as possible.
Well, I got to the point where I could name everybody in here.
When I see the residents, I see my grandparents, and it's just as much like family to me.
You know, I have a large family, but now I have a larger one.
At Legacy, you're not just a resident, you're part of a family.
They're watching in TV land. We're going to start with our motivational, inspirational message. We've invited Dan Gustafson to come up and do that for us.
All right, thank you. Well, it's a pleasure to be here this evening. Mayor Leifson and City Council, enjoy being here. Thanks for the invitation. You know, we share weird names. We were just talking about that. Gislason in Icelandic and Leifson. Those are some unusual names, but you know, I'm the stake president of the Spanish Fork Utah Stake, right on the east end of town. That's where all the Icelanders kind of live. In fact, the Icelandic monument, the lighthouse, is right smack dab in the middle of our stake, and so we can claim that in our stake. You know, that lighthouse has always been kind of a beacon to me. When you think about Iceland, and a lot of the immigrants came here to Spanish Fork. But it kind of reminds me of my Icelandic ancestry. I also had the opportunity of serving a LDS mission in Iceland, and so it kind of reminds me of that. It also kind of symbolizes the strength and direction and the safe harbor that Spanish Fork really is to a lot of people. A wonderful town, a safe town. And so it's always been a place I'd like to go to and gather around and find that piece of safe harbor right here in Spanish Fork. You know, when you think about that monument, it kind of reminds us of a lot of the Icelandic immigrants who came here. There was like 410 that came here between about 1855 and 1914. But not only them, there was immigrants from a lot of other countries. 1,000 other places came to Spanish Fork as well. But it doesn't just remind me of the pioneers. It also kind of reminds me of all those people who come to this town, whether they come to or through the town, just to visit. I think they also find it's kind of like a welcome doormat, kind of a welcome mat, a safe harbor as they come to Spanish Fork. Behind that lighthouse is a wall, a memorial wall that has the names of 410 Icelanders that came to Spanish Fork. You know, they were seeking religious and also economic freedom, and they found it right here in Spanish Fork and the surrounding communities. And so my ancestors are also written on that wall. Some of these weird names, Sigmundur Gislason and Svensina Aðalbjörg Ásnadóttir, and gosh, some of those weird names, Gisli Gislason, Steinunn Thorsteinsdóttir. All these weird Icelandic names are on that wall. But you know, I've kind of found that as I connect with my ancestors, my grandparents and great-grandparents, something very special, very significant happens inside of me that I can feel. As I learn about them, as I learn the kind of connections that I have with them, they're part of me, something happens inside. And you know, back in September, Mayor Leifson invited about, I don't know, 2 or 3 dozen Icelanders here for the 160-year anniversary of the first pioneers that came to Spanish Fork. And that was a wonderful experience. I mean, that was some very important connections that we were able to make. You were able to say his name, Etlevi Bygnason.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
I just called him Ed.
He's the mayor of Vestmannaeyjar. That's the island where most of those 410 Icelandic pioneers came from, including my ancestors and yours. And I just thought it was very significant, the great connection that you and Mayor Bygnason made in having kind of a sister city arrangement. I thought that was wonderful. I had the opportunity when I met Mayor Bygnason to ask him how far back his ancestors go in Vestmannaeyjar. And he said, well, way back, as long as the history of the island. Now, Vestmannaeyjar is a little island, just like 12 miles long and 6 miles wide, about 12 miles off of the mainland of Iceland, and that's where most of the people came from, that little town. So that little town is not nearly as big as Spanish Fork, but I'm glad they're our sister city. But I asked him that question, and he said they go way back, and I said, well, so do mine. And so I shared the names that I shared with you with him, and he got his phone out and started to look a little bit, and then he looked at me with a lot of excitement and said, we share the same fourth great-grandfather. And even though he didn't know me and I didn't know him, we found ourselves in a warm embrace. And that's what happens with connections. You know, as we treat our fellow man as brothers and sisters, something very special happens inside of us. And it happened when we had these visitors. We had some very special moments. And, you know, whether you're from Iceland or any other place or right here in Spanish Fork, if we can make those connections, we feel that togetherness that happens to know that we're really all brothers and sisters. We're all sons and daughters of the same Heavenly Father who loves us, and we should love Him. And we should treat each other as brothers and sisters. And when we do that, we feel that real special, significant feeling inside of us. And so let's make that this kind of a town, that we make those kinds of connections. And thank you, Mayor Leifson, for creating that wonderful sister city arrangement. If we now could just join in prayer, I'd appreciate that. Our dear Father in heaven, we're so thankful for the many blessings that we have. We're thankful for the knowledge that Thou art truly, literally our Father in heaven, and that we are Thy children, Thy sons and daughters, and that we are brothers and sisters to one another. Help us to reach out in love and in fellowship and brotherhood and touch the lives for good of those that we meet. We're so thankful for Thy Son, our Savior, our elder brother, Jesus Christ. We're so thankful for His example, for He is the one who gave a commandment that we love one another. And we pray that we will do that. We're thankful that we live in this wonderful, beautiful town where we feel it is a safe harbor, a safe haven from the storms that are outside. We are saddened by the events that have transpired in Paris. And we pray that greater love and brotherhood would prevail. We know that it is only through the gospel of Thy Son that men and women of different nations can come together in peace. And we know that that is desperately needed throughout the world. Again, we thank Thee, dear Father in heaven, for the many blessings that we have. We pray that Thy Spirit would guide us, that we would reach out and bless those that we can bless. And these things we pray for and thank Thee for humbly in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Thanks.
Thank you. Appreciate that. I've asked Councilman Mendenhall to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please repeat the pledge after me.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. All right, come to the public comments. If there's anyone out there that'd like to address the mayor and the council, you're welcome to come forward and do that now. Seeing none, we'll move into, we have an agenda request. Lacey Nelson, the Icelandic Association president, come forward. It must be Iceland meeting tonight.
I guess it is, yeah. Thanks for having me here. As Mayor Leifson said, I'm Lacey Nielsen. I'm the current president of the Icelandic Association of Utah, which was founded in 1897 in Spanish Fork. Just to tell you about my heritage, my Icelandic descendant is Samuel Bjarnason, who was the first Icelander to join the church in Iceland, and with two others, his wife and another woman, came to Spanish Fork and were the first Icelanders in Spanish Fork. So that's my connection. There are many Icelanders in Spanish Fork that have a stronger connection. My family kind of came late in the game. We didn't grow up in Spanish Fork like so many did, but we've been welcomed as Icelanders into this great community here. And it's been a blessing in my life. The reason I'm here tonight is to help expand our Iceland Day celebration. It's been held for over 100 years, as far north as Lehigh and as far south as Payson at different locations. It's fluctuated in popularity as far as how many Icelanders come and celebrate, and lately the numbers have been dwindling less than we'd like. Our struggle now as an association is to reach the younger generation, my generation, and those that come after me, get them involved in the association. But also we'd like to continue this relationship with Spanish Fork City and with Westmannaeyr, reaching out and building those connections. And so part of our goal is to expand Iceland Days into an event that many in Spanish Fork would like to attend in the state of Utah, and even Icelanders. We've had previous years where tour groups of Icelanders have come and attended Iceland Days, similar to what they did when they came to the BYU event in September. So this celebration has many people coming, but we would like to expand it into more of a citywide event where people know about it and can come. One of the ways we'd like to do that is to have it in Spanish Fork, obviously, at the Spanish Fork City Park. Just across the street is an Icelandic cabin in that pioneer village that was moved there by the Hughes family last year. And that is just a really special place to go to for me and other Icelanders of Icelandic descent that can just go and feel that in that cabin. And then also it's just centrally located within the city. So it's just a great location for us. So we'd like to hold Iceland Days there. We'd also ask for help with advertising, if you'd be willing, on your Facebook page, on Channel 17, or any other customary ways to help with that. Also, Mayor Leifson, we'd like to ask you to come and welcome everyone, if you'd be willing.
Jeez, as long as you got the pancakes there.
We'll have pancakes, so yes, if you could be there, that would be great. Also, we'd like to have vendors at Iceland Days throughout the park. Right now it's going to be called Iceland Days, the Fire and Ice Festival. And our goal is to have vendors there that follow the fire and ice theme, and kind of stay true to our heritage, tell the stories of our ancestors, while also attracting other people to come and learn about how does Spanish Fork have a connection to Iceland? But they could come to this event and see and understand why there are Icelanders in Spanish Fork, how they got there, why we still honor our heritage. We're one of the very few groups that still, they have always honored their Icelandic heritage, and we'd like to continue that moving forward while being inclusive of the community that we live in and reaching out to the families and individuals in Spanish Fork. So that's what we'd like to do.
Wow, good deal. Well, I think we kind of talked a little bit about it, and I think we'll get staff to kind of work something out, and I think we can accommodate a lot of those requests that you're asking. I think we'd love to have it, since we've had the sister city with Westmannaeyr, and especially with the mayor coming over here, and he said, he told me, he said, I want to do more and more between our two cities, and I think, that's a good step there. With Iceland Days and keeping it right here, because I'd like to keep it right here.
That would be great.
I think everybody else agreed. So we'll work on that with you and get you all sorts of information we can do.
Fantastic.
If you can let us know in advance when the date is and kind of coordinate with us, and we can get it in the works.
Sure, it's June 24th through 26th. The Saturday event is obviously June 25th, 2016.
Okay. Perfect. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And she's done a great job, believe me. This gal right here has worked tirelessly to make that association work good, and so thank you for all the work you do.
Thanks for your
And her
time.
father's
Appreciate it.
kind of back there doing well too.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it. Okay. Council comments. Well, why don't we start with Councilman Mendenhall?
Really quick.
You're on the clock.
Council person-elect Beck and I had the opportunity last Thursday to visit Park Elementary School, and Brandon and I visited that early this year as well, for their Leader in Me program. And I think Councilmember Beck will agree with me that we were very impressed by the program that they offer there, with the Covey 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and the leadership program that they train their kids on. Very impressed. Again, kids shaking your hand and looking you right in the eye. And so just want to give another shout out to our local elementary school of Park Elementary, and getting to enjoy breakfast with them and talk to them and meet some of those kids again. So the future of Spanish Fork is in some very good hands. Other than that, the Utah Lake Commission meeting is coming up this Thursday, so I'll have a report on what's new with that commission next council meeting. And besides that, I'd turn it over to Clark and President Beck for our chamber minute.
Thank you. I wrote everything down because I always forget half of it. We did want to let you know that 3 members have increased their membership to platinum level. So we now have our all-time high platinum sponsorships at 30 businesses. We are also at an all-time high membership of 264 chamber members. So the chamber is doing good. This Thursday, there is a ribbon cutting at Madera's here on Main Street. It's at 1:30, but if you go eat lunch there and stay to join us at the ribbon cutting at 1:30, if you tell them you're there for the ribbon cutting, you get 15% off. So to all of our viewers, they can join us there as well, and it's right there in where Maggleby's used to be. They have delicious barbecue, they cater, so we encourage you to support this new local business. And then we hope the community has marked their calendars for the Winter Lights Parade. It's a week from Friday. It's on Black Friday, so when you're done shopping and finish your turkey leftovers, come on down at 7 p.m. to the Winter Lights Parade. It'll start on 9th North and end on 1st South, and we're hoping to have about 40 entries. So Santa will be the final one to wrap up the parade that night, so come join us.
Santa even called from the North Pole today to make sure that we still had him on the schedule. So we're very pleased that he does have us on the schedule and we have him. One thing that I would like to bring to your attention and invite any of the council or staff who could attend is our new networking luncheon tomorrow will be President Matt Holland. He'll be speaking to us at the boardroom at the Nebo School District offices, and we feel incredibly lucky that that President Holland accepted our invitation. It came through Carrie Malkovich, who is the legislative women's leader for the state, and I'm excited because he was my intern at Geneva. So, and now look where he is. We'd like to invite any of you there. It will be at noon, lunch, and he is actually going to address, a lot of what he'll be addressing is that 64% of the high school graduates in the South County attend UVU, and he'll be addressing that and the future of the university. And as I said, we're very excited about that. Our new networking is growing. We've come from a place where maybe 20 to 25 to now typically about 40 to 70. And you guys could make it 80, so please, please attend. Wait, that's Benjamin math. Oh, no. But we want to thank you. And oh, yes, and today we honored American, and I'm sorry, I got some bad news before I came here. So, but we had our business of the month that we honored, and we honored America First Credit Union, and did that at their Salem office, and we are proud to have a very special relationship with them through the Rotary Club. in the golf tournament. And as you all already know, we were able to award 24 scholarships this year to all 5 of the high schools. I mean, it included all kids from all 5 of the high schools, but America First is one of the key sponsors and key players that we work with in that. And so we were very proud to honor them. And right now we have our voting going on for new board members. And I probably should mention that Todd Dickerson, he is our new vice president by acclamation, so to speak. And we're very excited about that. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
That's it, Mayor.
Great. Councilman Scobes.
Mayor, the only thing I have to report, this last week was Veterans Day. We mentioned that a bit. Our last meeting in preparation for it, just to report the Veterans Council, both the VFW and the American Legion here in town visited, oh, good grief, I don't have the numbers with me, but quite a few different schools, talked to different, the youth in the community about Veterans Day, what it means to be veterans. They had programs. Both veterans groups are active in the community with scholarships, Boys State, different things like that to help the youth understand their role as citizens. And so it was a great Veterans Week. There were several veterans from our community that had passed away, older vets, and so they had worked the funeral details for those funerals. But all in all, it was a great opportunity to have these 2 veterans organizations represent our community and also represent our country to our community in such a great fashion. It was a great week. That's all.
Councilman Dart.
Just a couple of things. Senior citizens are always looking for, I was going to say they're dying to have new members down there, but they're always looking for new members, especially they could use some of the baby boomers, I think, down there.
Huh.
Also,
Wonder who that would be.
yeah.
that directed to me, Rod?
Yeah, and also, the Food for Fines is still going on at the library, so if you've got overdue books, take in a can of beans and you'll be forgiven of all your trespasses. That's all I had.
Councilman Gordon.
Nothing from me, Mayor.
Great. Councilman Davis.
Well, I first want to thank all the veterans, like Keir said, for all that they've done for us. I appreciate their service and dedication and sacrifice that they have given our country. And it was Veterans Day last on the 11th, and I appreciate all that they've done, and again, thank them for what they've done. Last Thursday, I had the opportunity to go to our South Utah Valley Municipal Water Association meeting. We talked about new officers for next year that will be voted in February and the procedures for that. We talked about our assets that we have at Sumwa. We have water shares going through CUP, plus we have some land that's down by the lake that we own. We went through our budgets and things like that for the last time of the year. Also, Monday, had the opportunity to go to our Mount Nebo Water Association meeting, and we had our technical committee talk about a regional water study. And I want you to know that Spanish Fork is the only one out of all of the entities that belong to Mount Nebo that has their 40-year plan and has all their water secured. And Chris, I'd like you to just come up and talk a little bit about that.
Well, so one of the big issues with Mount Nebo is they want to plan and make sure there's enough water for this end of the valley. And so they did a study which said what information is already there and what information is lacking. As they got into the Spanish Fork plans, like Councilman Davis said, we had done all the work and it was basically completed in Spanish Fork, and there's gaps, you know, elsewhere, and so they're trying to decide how to how to go forward, but we had already had it done, so that was good.
It's pretty good. We talked about how we were going to protect our water and issues that are coming up in the following years, and water is very, very critical right now. And as you can know, with our snowpacks and things like that, we need a great snow or a great winter this year. And so it's just understanding how wonderful Spanish Fork's water plan is, and that we have it all secured, and the difference that we've had through the years of doing our pressurized irrigation and not having to build plants and stuff like that to purify our waters, and or we'd be out of water right now, wouldn't we, Chris? And
That pressurized irrigation
right.
has really saved us.
It really has. So anyway, thank you, Chris, for that. I've been, for the last couple of months, been talking about some of our different areas in our city, and this time I want to talk about Del Robinson and the Parks and Recreation Department and how wonderful that is. You know, I remember Jack Swenson and all the wonderful things he did, but Del has brought it up to a new tier with what he's done with him and his employees that work underneath him, and I just appreciate all that Del has truly done for Spanish Fork City. Our Parks and Recreation is second to none. I mean, we are the best. We really are, and it's been an honor to live in Spanish Fork and to participate in all these wonderful sports and recreation deals and our parks and how beautiful they are and the services. Bill Bushman and Bart Morrill, I really appreciate what they have done for our parks, and Tad Thorpe for our baseball parks, and all those guys that work underneath these wonderful people. I just appreciate all that they do. I just can't tell you how wonderful Spanish Fork is with our parks. I want to thank all of our employees right now. They are truly the city's greatest asset. And so I just appreciate all that every one of them do for the city and to make Spanish Fork what it is. We're lucky to have great employees that care about the city and care about their work and their field of expertise and making it what Spanish Fork truly is. And one last thing, I had the opportunity to sit in with an interview with one of our senior citizens last week. Me and Pete got to listen to Fern Lindley talk to us about the city. Carl, it was awesome. I mean, she had me and Pete laughing. She had us crying. It was supposed to be just an interview to talk about the city and the different buildings and what she'd seen as Spanish Fork progress. But she talked about herself, and she talked about her husband and the depression and the things that she went through in life. She lost a son in Vietnam. She's a Gold Star mother, but she also lost a brother in World War II on a ship that. So she lost a brother in a war too, and she just talked about the depression, and then she started to talk about the different buildings. You know, she just started going down Main Street and going, I can remember where this was and this was and this, and I'd sort of shake my head and say, yeah, I remember that, and then she'd say something, one that I didn't know about, and I go, I can't remember that one, but it was really fun and interesting to listen to her. But as she finished off, this is what really got me and just made me feel so good about her. She says, I really love Spanish Fork. I love the people. She says, I'm not very tall, and she's not. She's about 5 foot tall. She says, I can go to the stores, and I can't reach some of the things, and people will come up and help me and pick things up. And people are so thoughtful and service-minded. She says, what I love about Spanish Fork, and I wrote this down so I wouldn't forget it. She says, people care about people, and they care about the Lord too. And that's what's good about Spanish Fork. We do care about people. People care about people here in Spanish Fork. We love each other, and we take care of each other. And as the holidays come forward here with Thanksgiving and Christmas, I hope we think about our neighbors and look out for each other as we always have. And love people and love the Lord. And that's what I want to leave is I love this city, and I love the people, and I love the Lord. And thank you for letting me be part of this. That's all I have, Mayor.
Hey, thank you. I've got just a couple of items. One, we have our Festival of Lights the day after Thanksgiving will be on. So that's always a great event for everybody. So, you know, bundle the kids up and take them for a ride through the lights up there at Canyon View Park. There's a lot of people that come for that, and and it just keeps getting bigger and bigger. The next thing I want to do is congratulate the 2 new elected council members to our city, Stacy Beck and Chad Argyle. They'll be our 2 new council members starting in January, and I just want to tell them congratulations and thanks for running such great campaigns, and look forward for you to serve with us here and all the fun stuff that we get to do. Next thing I'd like to just mention, Dave Euler has been with the city for, geez, did you come across with Moses? I'm not sure. 40 years. 40 years. And so he has announced his retirement. He'll be retiring in February. So we tried to talk him into another 40 years, but it hasn't worked. So just to let everybody know that, and we're working, I don't know if we can find anybody to replace him, but we're working to take his place there. So just kind of be aware of that. And we appreciate, Dave, all you've done. Okay, moving along. We've got Spanish Work 101. Go ahead, Dave.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. A little different maybe approach tonight to Spanish Fork 101 than maybe some of the things we've done in the past. So I'm going to introduce a very special guest that we have here in just a minute. He'll share insight that he has with us on some issues that we know are very important to our community and our residents. Truly, he's an expert in his field, and we're very fortunate to have him here tonight. And I've thanked him. I'll thank him again for being here. But after he, like I mentioned, shares some thoughts and some of the things he's observed and he knows about his business, we'd like to have a little bit of dialogue and have the council feel free to ask any questions that you might have of him, maybe staff as well, or anybody else that might want to pick Steve's brain while we have him here. I have told him he's in friendly territory. I mean, he is here volunteering his time tonight, and like I said, we sure appreciate that. So with that being said, I'll just go ahead and proceed. Steve Boulder is the Executive Vice President at Coldwell Banker Commercial Advisors, where he has worked and advised his clients in the real estate industry throughout the western United States for the last 22 years. He has built his career by providing expert, in-depth market evaluations, demographic profiles, competition analysis, and site information. Steve markets numerous shopping centers throughout Utah, Alaska, Idaho, and Montana. He also oversees site selection for several local, regional, and national tenants in those same states and Wyoming. These clients include R.C. Willey, Petco, Freddy's, which I've got to ask, where's the closest Freddy's? Is there a couple in
St.
Utah
George.
now? Are there some? Okay. You guys ever seen a Freddy's?
Been there.
Yeah, great.
Great.
Right? Okay, I'm not the only one.
Yeah.
To continue on, Best Buy, JCPenney's, Smith's, Black Bear Diner, Olive Garden, Longhorn Steakhouse, Jersey Mike's, Avis, Budget Rental Car, Tropical Smoothie Cafe, Bed Bath & Beyond, Shoe Depot, Cato, Maurice's, Retro Fitness, and Red Lobster. Additionally, Steve assists many large retailers, including Albertsons Super Value, Staples, Kmart, Fred Meyer, Office Depot, Hollywood Video, and 7-Eleven, with leasing excess space. Steve currently resides in Draper with his wife Christy and their 4 children. When he has downtime, he enjoys traveling, skiing, scuba diving, and spending time with his family. And like I said, we're very happy to have Steve here with us tonight. And hopefully after he shares his remarks, you'll feel comfortable asking him any questions that you have of him. this is a unique opportunity for us. Steve's here to talk about restaurants primarily, so I'll warm it up that way. And it's all yours, Steve. Thank you.
Well, Mayor and council members, it is my privilege to be here tonight. I think it's a great opportunity, and I commend you on your willingness to look into this a little bit more and the importance it is in your city. I'm going to talk mostly about restaurants, as Dave said. I appreciate that introduction. I do site selection for restaurants. So when Olive Garden or any of those we mentioned want to look at new sites in Utah and surrounding states, they would hire a company like mine, hopefully me, of course, to give that local knowledge on what they should be looking for, where the retail things are taking place. I want to talk about the three different kind of divisions in the restaurant business, and they're defined by the restaurant industry as in three categories. One is the fine dining category. That's Capital Grille, Ruth's Chris, mostly white tablecloth restaurants, probably ticket price per person somewhere in the $50 range type deal. It is quite dependent upon alcohol sales, and for that reason, Utah as a whole, even Salt Lake City, gets passed over by a lot of these restaurants because they look at other communities where they can do a higher volume of alcohol sales. The restaurants in Utah, and this one's more in the casual dining segment, typically national restaurant sales are going to be somewhere around 20 to 25% of a restaurant's sales volume comes from alcohol. In Utah, we're a little different than that, as you would imagine. It's about half. Somewhere in the 9 to 12% of a restaurant sales in Utah come from the sales of alcohol. So unfortunately for us, that does factor into a restaurant when they look at the state. They have to make that. They have to make that note. Now, luckily, we do much higher in the dessert category in Utah than most restaurants. We have a way of making part of it up, but not totally. So the second category is the one I want to talk mostly about tonight, and that's the casual dining segment. That's Olive Garden, Red Lobster, Longhorn Steakhouse, Ruby Tuesdays, that type of thing. This has been a segment that has been around a lot of years. It still continues to do well. It's not growing at the same pace that it did for many years. And a lot of that's attributed to what is a subcategory of casual dining, which is the fast casual segment. This is Chipotle, Cafe Rio, Noodles, and that type of thing. And that's really the segment that's on fire. And I think your city's done a great job of attracting some quality restaurants in that category, and I think you'll see more coming. But it's not quite the category if you want to go sit down for a meal with friends that's looked to quite as much as that casual dining segment. And the third category I'm not going to focus a whole lot on, but it's called quick serve, and it's really fast food. They just renamed it because I think fast food's kind of got a bad connotation to it. But that is the McDonald's, the Freddy's, and those type of things, and they're great. Every community needs those too, but they remain fairly easy to attract. Good traffic, good reasons to be there, and they'll pretty much come. Casual dining is I think the focus tonight, and they kind of travel in a pack. You'd think that they'd kind of want to come into a market and be the only one so that they could capture all the sales, which would make the most sense to me. But the opposite's actually true. They're kind of nervous to be the first one in. They have ways of knowing what the competitors do in sales, and they depend heavily on a restaurant doing well in a market. And so to get the first one in and to have that be successful is a real stepping stone to attract more of that same category. And I think that's what you guys are looking at right now. I do work with Red Lobster, and we are making some progress there as far as looking at some sites, and we're hopeful that can come true or come in. Your community is great. I grew up in Beaver, small town down south. I've always looked at Spanish Fork as a better version of my hometown. It's got a great feel. You've got great people here, and you just have more services and more opportunities than my wonderful town of Beaver I grew
We
up
don't
in.
have the El Bambi Cafe down
We don't have that. Unfortunately, if you go through Beaver now, it doesn't have it either, so. It's kind of seasonal, I guess, with when it's open.
Dang it.
But yeah.
Stop going.
Yeah, see, you gotta come through town a little more often. Spanish Fork sits just on the edge of attracting this casual dining segment. Your population has grown through the years. You guys have seen that take place. You've attracted some quality retailers. Costco, I mean, what a boom for you. The other retailers that are coming in the new development, and that is the stepping stone to getting this casual dining segment into town. When we look at a site for most of these restaurants, they talk about several main things. One is the amount of retail. So in approving a site, they're going to come in and say, in a 1 mile radius around this site we're looking at, what's the leasable area for retail space? And so we'll look at that. You've got a strong concentration coming in for that. They'll look at the amount of office that's in about that same radius. They are primarily a dinner for the most part, but they do a lunch business, and so that office is a nice bonus to have that component coming in. They'll look at the amount of hotel rooms, because obviously that's a pretty easy target for them for the hotel segment coming in. And they'll look at overall population too. And one of the main things that they look for is they want the entertainment concept. They want a theater. They want a special event type place. They want to be close to these things because, as we know, typically we'll go out to dinner and a movie type of event. And so that's one thing that I've spoken to Dave quite a bit about is the importance of working to attract, if possible, that theater component into your community, because that will be a big step to attracting more of it. Those are the main components, and I think if we can continue to focus on getting that first one in, and I really think it'll do great, I think you'll see others coming in. I want to talk just a minute about the liquor sales a little bit more. We do get overlooked. They'll look at markets all the way around us before they look at Utah, most of these restaurants, and they're all scared to death of the liquor laws in the state. For the most part, once we can educate them and they understand it better, most of them get over it. There were some steps taken in the last few years that opened up the amount of liquor licenses available. They made it to where Olive Garden or Chili's can come in and have one license basically for all of the restaurants, and that's been a huge step in the right direction to open that up. Our issues remain with the Zion Curtain. Most states you can sit at the bar and order a drink, and the drink can be prepared in front of you and be served at the bar. Here, we have to go in a different room, prepare the drink, and then bring it out wherever it is. So while it may seem like not that big a deal, most of these restaurants have a footprint of their building that they build all over the place. And so to come in and re-engineer a bar and to put a room in somewhere off that bar where the alcohol is poured does pose some challenges. They've got to be pretty committed to redesign a footprint to make it work in a market where they're only going to use it a few times. So they're doing it. Those that have come are doing it, but there are the same amount or more that have come in, looked at the liquor laws, and decided that they don't quite have the energy to put up with that right now. So, it's a battle that we continue to fight, but slowly but surely the things loosen up and we get more and more that can come into the market. So I commend your city for being proactive. In our industry right now as a whole, the internet is affecting retail sales. There are several categories that I think you probably know that are affected, electronics, and a lot of those things have been hit pretty hard by this. And it's created where food, a lot of centers were worried about putting too much food in for parking requirements, but it's created an environment now where restaurants are actually looked at as a mini anchor tenant. And where it used to be you'd had to have a Walmart or Lowe's, well, restaurants are now providing so much activity that they're really looked at as that big attraction. And a substantial amount of our business, whether it's the quick serve or the casual or the fast casual, is really in these food users right now. So, you know, we may be able to order some things online, but you still can't quite get that steak delivered to your house the way you want it online. So, with that, I'd open it up to questions or any other things we can.
Anybody got some questions for Steve?
This probably be more for Dave. Where are we with the movie theater situation? Are we close to anything happening? Get the okay from Dave.
Yeah, a lot of you and a lot of our residents, I'm sure, have seen some different concept plans that have been presented by the developer of Canyon Creek over the years, Woodbury Corporation. And clearly, they have planned space as part of that development for a theater. That's led to some discussions that we've had with our existing theater and how things might change for them in the future. There are just a couple of theater operators, as I understand it, in Utah that do business, and there have been varying degrees of interest expressed by them over the years in building a facility and operating a theater here in Spanish Fork. We're reaching out to them right now to try to make sure that we're in line if they look to build another facility in our part of the world. But as of today, I'm not aware of any commitments that either of those two groups have made.
I have a question for you. Just in looking at, you mentioned things of proactivity, some of the things that casual dining is concerned of, Zion Curtain and other stuff. What, if anything, other than proactivity, zoning, you mentioned things like our North Park area that's a very central area for the retail in that 1 mile radius. What can we do as city leaders to reach out, grip and grin, you know, those types of things to facilitate talks and discussions? I mean, I don't know very many of us that have the Rolodex for the CEO of Olive Garden or Texas Roadhouse or those things. So is there a mechanism, or is it simply through Economic Development Office that's the only way?
Yeah, and I think Dave's done a great job with this. I'll commend him for that. A lot of it takes place at ICSC type meetings, where the retailers, restaurants, and the cities and every, I think you understand ICSC, where they gather, and that's where a lot of this takes place. You know, it's the opportunity to come in and tell a positive story about your city, and you can tell that story. I mean, the Costco and Walmart and all the stuff that's going in there is a story, and Dave's done a great job of getting that word out. You know, it's a frustrating process. This group backed off a lot through the recession. You got hit hard. It's coming back out now, and the restaurants are doing well. But it's just that continued getting your representative to work with the brokerage community, which is what I'm in, to constantly have that in front of them. And I think you are doing that. I'm going to commend you for that. But it's timing, and it's always being there, shaking their hand, and hoping now's the right time.
I got a couple questions. Maybe piggyback on what Keir mentioned a little bit. We have a pretty good track record, I think, as a city on a few things as far as getting some businesses here in some aspect, with restaurants becoming that mini anchor. Is there any cities out there that you see that are doing anything we're not doing as far as incentive-based, anything like that, for an industry that's, you know, somewhat localized, somewhat small that way?
Yeah, we are seeing help with some impact fees and different things with some of these restaurants to attract them in. Usually the impact fees in Utah aren't as bad as most states where they go to, but we are seeing help in those type of situations. But primarily it's just being proactive and hoping the right opportunity comes along.
Yeah, timing, a little bit of
I wish
timing.
there was a magic bullet that I could say, look, if you did these 3 things, you're going to get this. for years, you weren't even in the running because population was lower and you didn't have the type of retail development that's going in now. I mean, you know, the growth is great, and your guys' proactive attitudes with this new development, I think, is probably the best thing you can do to continue to keep in front of them.
Question maybe just passed along that we've probably all heard as well, but it's a question I haven't really known how to answer, but I'm sure the data gathering for your industry and representing those companies is just something really cool that a geek would like to see or something. But some people have said, you know, we probably patronize a lot of places in Provo and north of here right now with our credit cards and everything else. Is the data?
Oh, they know.
They know.
Yeah, they know. They know that they'll project their sales here, and they'll say that when we open a store here, we're going to impact Provo 15% or whatever the number is. Yeah, they're very proactive in the information they have, and when they project sales for a restaurant, they're not far off.
Yeah.
So they've really become sophisticated in that type of knowledge for what they have. So.
Thank you.
On that same note, Steve,
Yeah.
I heard a statistic last week that as gas drops 1 penny in Utah, it creates $1 million that we as a people can spend. And a lot of that's being spent in the food.
Yes.
Are there other similar statistics like that? Do they look at that as sustainable? Because obviously, if gas prices go up, what are some of the other statistics that are in there other than, like Mike's saying, other local communities
Well,
to drive to?
one of the things that affects our state negative, which we think is positive, is the size of our families. Because they look at disposable income and how much of that they can tap into. And with a large family size, it helps our numbers population-wise look good, but it does affect us that our disposable income is lower than some other places.
Gotcha.
So that's one thing that they're going to key off of a lot. Trying to think of anything else that's really key. Probably not a whole lot there, really.
And obviously, if gas prices are down, they're not going to say, hurry, let's build one because
No.
they're down.
No, because it's not. You know, we don't have
It's
much
not sustainable.
It's not sustainable.
Right. Okay.
New business coming in, any of that type of information is what they want to see. And, you know, probably the biggest thing is, you know, we know what Costco does, and it's a good thing, and that's a big thing. I mean, the Costco makes this trade area a regional type trade area, more, not fully regional, but more regional, so that we can look at a trade area, we'd call it, of where the people are coming from, and it might extend that trade area out another 20, 30 miles. Is what the draw will come into. So now you may have had people coming in from 10 miles away, and well, now they'll say it's 50 miles. People are going to come to that Costco and come to dinner type thing. So
Gotcha.
kudos to the Costco too.
And what I just heard him say was 2 kids is enough, Mike. You can stop.
I'm done?
You're done.
Gotcha. Okay.
You've done your
Tell your
part.
wife.
Coming from you, that's really saying a lot.
You can have a couple of mine.
Yeah.
All right, any other questions for him?
I just have one other quick question.
Yeah.
The casual dining is they're looking at opening their stores, their restaurants. It would seem to me, but is there, I guess, is it more data driven as far as location, or, and what I'm thinking of is we have Main Street, which we're working to revitalize. We have plans to change the appearance and the layout and different things, at least possibilities. Do they only look at newer areas where they would build new and establish there, or where they could take, that corner lot that is now opened up and be part of that revitalization?
They're going to focus on that new area where all those other retailers. I mean, retailers are followers. They live off of each other. You cross shop more than we know, and they're
Pack animals.
very dependent on that. Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Right. Hey,
Thanks,
Steve,
Steve.
we
Thank
appreciate
you.
you come down,
Thanks for coming.
because one of the things we get asked is, how come you're not bringing, Longhorn Steakhouse, and how come the city's not bringing all these restaurants? Well, we're not the ones that do it. They do it, and we just try to help them any way we can when they come. And so we appreciate you coming down and educating us a little bit on that.
Appreciate your time.
Yeah.
Mayor, thank you. Do you mind if I ask Steve to help us bust a few myths real quick as well, before we let him out? I'll be,
All
try to be
right.
quick. And he's already
Well, you-
said this, I think, and I'm not trying to
Yes, you can.
be leading or anything, but one of the things that we hear sometimes through different channels is that maybe the city has some regulations in place, in terms maybe of alcohol and things of that nature. Maybe I'll lead out on that one, just to be clear. Spanish Fork City's laws are no more restrictive than what you'd find any place in Utah. It's state of Utah regulations that determine that, not Spanish Fork City. So, simply put, Spanish Fork City does not have any regulations on the sale of alcohol that would prevent a retailer on that issue from locating here in the community.
Yeah.
And that's not something we see. We don't have anything that says Spanish Fork is against any of those things.
Another one, sorry.
Is the legislature, I mean, this Iron Curtain thing, I think it's a big deal. Is legislature moving towards doing something about that? I know they've talked about it a lot.
Slowly, yeah, there's a lot of talk, there's a lot of talk. The last year's session, they basically said, look, we've done some things in the past few years, we're not gonna address it this year at all, so come back again. You know, there is a major influence in Utah, of which I'm a member of, that has a huge impact on these laws, and I understand and respect that. And none of us, it's really weird to try to push for loosening up liquor laws, to be honest, but we're not trying to promote drinking and driving, and typically these casual dining restaurants, they're such a small, I mean, you have to buy food to buy alcohol, there's such a small issue there, but.
Great.
We talked about a few restaurants tonight. And we just happened to have a building on a prominent corner here in town. Walgreens started building here a year or so ago. They stopped. It's partially finished. Is it reasonable to think that there's any chance that a restaurant might take that building? And when I say a restaurant, I mean casual dining restaurant like a Longhorn Steakhouse, Outback, Red Lobster, anything like that? You don't see that as a viable possibility?
I mean, one, it's designed, they're very specific in their design, and two, you know, I don't want to pick on the road system, but that piece right there is heavily affected as you come off of Highway 6 towards Costco, and the rumor is that left-hand turn will go away at some point, and so any discussion on that piece, even though you can drive through the intersection and still make a right-hand turn into that, the national retailers are pretty scared of that right there. So, and I don't have a solution for you. I wish I could say, here's your solution. I understand that it can back into the intersection. It's a problem. But that piece right there is great visibility, but it's got a few issues to it right now. So.
And you'll find most restaurants, they have their footprint and their designs, and they want to stick to those.
Yeah. You know, I don't know if you've been to Blackbird Diner. They're one that they adapt to existing buildings, and they go in. They're one of the few that will do that, and they do great in this market. You know, we just opened them up in Provo, and they're just on fire right there. But that's about the only one. Most of these have a kitchen that's designed so specifically to be efficient that they will, odds are, if an existing restaurant is sitting there, Olive Garden will tear it down. It could be 5 years old, they'll tear it down. They wouldn't take it over. So.
Hey, we appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Thanks for coming down, Steve.
Thanks, Steve.
All right. Consent items. Looks like we have a whole bunch of them, so we can do the speed reading type.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay, the first item is a lease extension. This is one we have with the LDS Church. It facilitates the drip irrigation system that was installed south of Maple Mountain High School on some church-owned property. It's actually ran by Howard Farms, and it's supplied through our pressurized irrigation. We anticipated they'd lease to us about 180 acre feet, I think it says in there, and about half of that, so 160, they were going to use 80 acre feet. We checked last year, and they actually only used between 40 and 50 acre feet of water, and the balance of that is able to be used by the city. So it's a great great opportunity where we've partnered with the farmer, and he uses less water. We supply that less water through our pressurized irrigation system to a drip system, and then we can use the balance of it in the city. So this just extends that lease agreement through the end of next year. Next item is the airport apron rehabilitation project, change order number 1. The main purposes of this change order were to fix some soft spots that were found during the construction. They had to dig those out and fix those. The next item is revised airport hangar ground lease agreements. We update those lease agreements at the airport, and this is an update to those. Finally, we have the landlord's release and consent for a new hangar construction. Recently, we had some new hangars built over here, and so we have to have this in place in order for us to, we own the land underneath these hangars, and then the hangars are owned by private individuals, and then we lease the land out to them. The next item F is for scenic development, which is kind of down in this area. If we could push the map a little bit over to here. Click on that right there. Okay. So what we have is a new development going in here. In order to construct that, to run a sewer line out and some utilities and what is now Spanish Fork Parkway, and this is so that they can be reimbursed for the benefit those utilities will have to land nets to them. So once you have maybe something built here, they would reimburse for their portion of that sewer line. And the next item is the Stillman annexation reimbursement agreement. We had this annexation here come in. One of the things that we require and are required is to have them buy out this Strawberry Electric Service District, SESD, power lines in this area, and then the city takes over serving power to them. That cost a fair amount of money, and since it was for a large area, as each one of these areas develops, then they will be required to pay back the developers of these two subdivisions that cost that benefited them in this annexation. And then item H, Mulestein Meadows LLC Mill Road Sewer and Water Connectors Agreements. Mulestein Meadows is this development right there. In order to build, they had to run some water and sewer lines down Mill Road. Those water and sewer lines benefit the other side of the road, and some of it is they're both trunk lines. So they're what I mean by that is they're upsized so that they can provide transmission to more than just their area. And so this will reimburse them for the transmission aspect of those lines that benefit other developments around them when those developments occur. And then it is the same thing. So there's two aspects to it. The transmission part is for impact fees reimbursement, and then just the fact that you have a line in the road benefits the property right adjacent to the road because they can connect to it. And so that's a connectors agreement that reimburses Mulestein Meadows for running the line in front of them. So there's two aspects of all these lines. One is the transmission part that is more for creating a big network, and that's paid for impact fees. And then there's the part where you need a sewer line in your road that you can run a sewer lateral to. And so that's the difference between a connectors agreement and an impact fee reimbursement agreement. And then J is the UTA wireline crossing agreement. The electric department is working on creating a connection that will go down Williams Lane underneath the freeway, and then it'll connect out here over to this substation here, Woodhouse substation. That will complete a connection to another substation that we have right here called the Whitehead substation. And what that will do is provide redundancy both ways, so that if we had a problem in the substation area served by Woodhouse, which is a very critical commercial area, an industrial area, and soon to be a hospital area, then load can be shared from over in this industrial area and vice versa. So, and this is a crossing agreement with UTA, which owns this railroad track, to allow us to run our electric lines there along and underneath the tracks. UTA has purchased this railroad track, so eventually they can build a commuter rail station over off of Center Street and I-15. So that's well into the future, but something to look forward to. And just for information, that commuter rail system would run along the railroad tracks here, but then switch to this track right about here. So that's the alignment for that. And then K is, we brought, if you can go down, yeah. So we are doing a safe sidewalk project right through here for children to walk on the south side of the road under US 6. Part of that is we needed easements from these two homes in order to construct the sidewalk, and this is the easement from this property right here. We acquired that one last council meeting, and this is for this property here so that we can construct that. That is a MAG grant project, and so there's, since it's Safe Sidewalk project funds, it's 100% funded, and we don't have any match. So financially, it doesn't really affect it, but since it's grant money in our name, we need to approve that. Any questions on any of those? Fast enough?
You did good. Proud of you.
Okay, the next item is a property exchange with David Adams. Mr. Adams is a developer doing a project over across the street from the sports park. We have a trail system that goes along there that goes past the old Swenson Park, go over to the newer park. He's got some property that we would like. We've got some property he would like for us to go. So basically, this is a land swap. This also includes the approximately half acre that we own in there that he is buying from us. So we're netting about $25,000, $30,000 from that, and then exchanging a couple of smaller pieces near the trail that will benefit us. Next item is the contract with Dispatch to provide legal services. For the last 3 or 4 years, we've been providing that on a lump sum basis as a member. Prior to that, the county attorney did that on an hourly basis. We were willing to do it on a lump sum so they could budget a little better. Recently, we were asked about that. We couldn't find a copy, so we thought we ought to get one. So this is a contract that formalizes what we've been doing for years. This is a 1-year contract. Currently, we're making $4,500 a year. Next year, we'll go up to $5,000. Price will be negotiated every year. It's just a year-to-year contract.
I've got 2 quick ones. One is the Bonneville Collections contract. We bid out our collection services for all our utility accounts, those that don't pay, and the low bid was Bonneville, and it substantially changed the bid, the collection, that their fee part went from 31% down to 18%, so it was good to rebid that out. And also to increase, to update our Cassell. Cassell's what runs our financial packages, our utility billing, our software that runs the city. They have a new upgrade, and this contract allows us to get to that upgrade. It gives us access to get reports for the new Obamacare, ACA stuff that we need for the end of the year. So this is renewing that.
Thanks, Ken. All right. I would entertain a motion to approve the consent items.
Motion to approve the consent items.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilman Gordon, a second by Councilman Scobes. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. New business, canvass of election.
Thought you were done, didn't you?
Didn't know if you know, Angie said that she really enjoyed all the time doing this.
Tonight is called the Canvas, and if you've watched the news, all the other cities in Salt Lake and everybody's doing a Canvas also. This is our city's turn to do the Canvas, and the Canvas isn't for the city council to recount all of the ballots and everything that took place. It's an opportunity for the city council to see the process and to give you the paperwork and to see how the election judges tallied the votes and gives you the process that you can review those. And so I'm going to give you the tabulation. This is the tabulation, a copy of the night of the election. But since that time, we had 346 provisional ballots that needed to be validated or checked. When a person went in to vote, many of you are home where, hey, wait, I did one of those provisional ballots. So there are 347 of those, and so we had to take the information on the outside of those envelopes, see if they could be validated as a valid voter, meaning they were registered somewhere but just had a hiccup in the book or some reason why they weren't in the book. We were able to validate 293 of those. And then also since election night, we've had some absentees that came in. As long as they're postmarked before Monday or before, we could count those. So there were some absentee ballots that came in that were postmarked after that, so we couldn't open those. And so on those, there were 93 absentee ballots that came in after the election day. So with those, this is the final tabulation. So I'm going to hand this summary out to you. Yes. Everybody else want one? Dying to know? You gotta tell me your name. Ethan. Ethan? Watch this really close. Anybody else like one? It's up on the screen there. This is a souvenir you can take home.
Brandon will autograph it for you if you'd like to after the council meeting.
And so the election had 4 council people running for office for 3 seats, and it was pretty close for those 3. And so the top vote getter was Beck, second was Argyle, and third was Gordon. And then we also had on the ballot the city bond election, and so it was defeated, meaning no, it was voted down. You can see over here on the side how that vote went. It was a 71 to 29 vote down. And then the county put on our ballot also another question about the additional sales tax, a 0.25% sales tax. And in our city, it was voted down also. 63% voted no. Our numbers right here went into the county, and a county-wide then they total it all up. So we could have voted it down, but the rest of the county could have voted yes, but the way the whole county voted it down. So the majority was to vote both of those down. And the way that the information comes in here is we had early voting, so that 9 days before the election, so we had 800 people come in and vote, and then we had sent out 600, Angie help me, 650 something absentee votes, somewhere in there. and 371 came back. So that many early voting, we had 1,200 people that voted actually before the election day, but we counted them and revealed that as election night. And so we had 7 polling places in town that were places to vote. We have 17 districts or precincts, and we grouped them according to these places, and this is the way we've always done it on our election years. And every 2 years, we have a city election, and the other years is a national election or a county election. So after the election, here's where the 293 provisional ballots came in and the 93. So we had voters, we had 6,500 voters voting, and I think that's probably one of the highest turnouts that we've had in number of voters. But of course, our number of voting registered voters has also been increasing. So we had our 3rd highest since I've been doing it for 24 years, our 3rd highest turnout. And there's been a lot of talk about we need to go do vote by mail for bigger turnouts, but we were one of the top turnouts in Utah County, even with our old red, I call it the red crayon in the X in the box. So we had a 40% turnout. And I'm sure the bond election had a big part of that, but it was a pretty good turnout, a busy night for the counters and everybody that worked. So as part of the canvas,
Get the autograph.
so these are the summaries of each one of those polling places when something took place as far as the voting. So we have early voting in a bundle. We have absentees in a bundle. We have Reese Elementary, Riverview. Each one of those have their own little bundle here as far as what took place. These are all certified by the election judges that worked on them. They'll have the signature. We'll have the summary here. And so part of the canvas, what this is to give this to you as the elected officials, the canvassing board, is to give you a chance to look through. You can look through one, you can look through every one of them. As you look through them, I'll give you an opportunity to just initial the top of it to say you've looked at it. So then if they pass back and forth, I'll give you a couple minutes, as long as the mayor will allow you to look at this. It's his meeting. But I'm going to pass these to you, and each one of those. And so what this is, the top page is the total votes cast. It'll tie to this sheet right here. Each bundle will have the same type of information. The second page will be the disposition of ballots. The third page is actually the tally list. You can see the pencil marks as the judges read each one of the ballots. 2 tallied, and so there'd be a tally book for each judge, and one was a reader, and 2 of them were talliers. And then there's a poll book that gives a list of the people that actually voted that came in those things. So this is the part of the canvas of each one of those areas. They've been signed by the election judges at the side, saying that they certified that this is the numbers they had, and you can tie it to the tabulation there if you would like to. And that is the consistency of what a canvas is. And so I'm going to just kind of pass a couple of these out.
And then what we'll do is, let's pass them all to the right, so we get a circle going here so we don't get confused.
Stand up
Sit.
and walk clear down there.
Give you something to look at.
No, Ken will stand there and take them down.
I'll tell you.
Crisscross.
He said he would. And you want them initial just anywhere?
Just anywhere on the front page, Kent?
Yeah, just on the front.
I mean, how come you give
Should
him
ask
so
4.
many?
I just thought maybe they
He
wanted
gave
to
me
get-
one.
Here, I'll take one more.
Take one.
Give me one.
When you're done looking at them, you want to start doing?
Just on the front page, anyway.
Has he,
Yeah,
he
just
has,
up in the top here, just up on the top.
he hadn't signed it yet. He just had a whole bunch. Just an initial?
Yep.
And pass them to your right.
And I can explain if it was a close vote, when would the recount take place?
Okay. So on the night of election, if there happened to have been a close race, it used to be, the old law was if there was a difference for every precinct there were, so 17, for every precinct that we had, if it was within 17 votes, then you could ask the candidate, would you like a recount? And if they said yes, then the city would have to pay for the recount. If it was more than that margin of 17, then that person would have to pay for not the recount, but also would have to go to the district court to say, I think something was wrong with this, and I'm filing a claim that there's something, a reason for a recount, and they'd have to pay for it. The new laws came about that said, well, the legislature decided to do it as a percentage, so it's like 0.0025 of the total votes cast for that one race. So it's kind of a formula-driven thing, and it comes out to about the same percent, but they add up all the votes counted, times it by a percent, and then if it's within that margin, then that candidate can ask for a recount. And what the recount would happen is, we would then ask election judges to come back in. There wouldn't be a re-vote, and so we would save all the bundles in my office. If you went in there, you can see there's sealed boxes of all the ballots that were done. So each one of these polling places, I have a sealed box. At the point of the recount, I would have election judges come in. For each one of those, they would open up the box, get the ballots out, and recount those ballots. Now, if there was a race of 3 things or 2 things, it could be a mayor and a city council or one of these others. If the recount was only for one of the races, that's the only thing that would be recounted on each of the ballots. The other one, part of the ballot, would be ignored. Then, once that recount is redone, the judges recertify that they've counted it, and then we do a canvass like this after, and we'd call it a recount canvass after that. Cover it pretty close.
You can have watchers at the counting stations, and you had watchers at almost all of them, right?
We did.
Yeah.
On most of them, not quite all of them, but there are watchers that candidates can send an affidavit to say, I'd like to go into the counting room and watch what goes on. And at those positions that they're in the counting room, it's pretty strict on as far as they can't talk to the judges, they can't communicate on cell phones outside to tell how it's going. It's mainly what they call a watcher, and you need to watch and not participate in the counting of it. So
What about at the actual polls? Can't be at the actual polls while voting.
they can have watchers at the polls also, but they can't be in the booth with the voters. But there can be a watcher. So there's 3 types of watchers. One would be a watcher at the poll called a poll watcher, and they can observe the handing out of ballots. They can observe giving names and stuff like that. And so it's just the observing of what goes on at that poll place. Then when we're in the back room counting, you can have another watcher back there that observes the actual ballots being opened up.
But they have to let you know that, right? They'd have to.
They have to file an affidavit saying, I would make Dave my watcher, I authorize him, and each candidate can have one watcher at each polling place.
And Dave can't wear a Vote for Kent Clark t-shirt.
No, Dave would have to, any electioneering has to be within 150 feet of the building. So you can't, candidate can't pull up in their Chevy in with the big sign in the back and say, vote for me, and park it right up next to the building, and that would be electioneering. You can't wear a t-shirt that says, vote for me, or vote for my favorite candidate up at the polls. That would be electioneering. So we had to watch that. I don't know if any of that happened this time, but it has happened in the past, and so we just gently persuade and encourage them to stop. So, any other questions about the process, or?
We'll get Officer Johnson out there to take care of that.
Yeah, I don't know, Officer Johnson's ever had gentle persuasion in his vocabulary.
Jeez. I disagree.
He's been gentle.
So what will happen with the candidates will be sworn in the first meeting in January and take their seat there on the council and start functioning the night of the first meeting. So tonight, I think they're in attendance, learning the ropes, and they're participating, but not officially yet, even though after tonight they are declared winners. I'll send their names into the Lieutenant Governor's office tomorrow, and look forward to the swearing in of the new candidates and the re-swearing in of an incumbent.
Swearing in.
Any other questions?
Got them all?
So it'd be a motion to accept the vote as a canvass, and then I'll send it into Lieutenant Governor's.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilman Davis, a second by Councilman Mendenhall. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thanks, Kent and Angie, for a lot of work that goes in for election. Isn't there, Angie? Yeah.
2 in the morning?
Yeah, so thanks for those guys.
Sun in the sun.
Okay, personnel policy change.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have a handful of changes to actually present to you tonight. We do this about every 6 or 7 months as we find areas in our personnel policy manual that are lacking or needing to be updated and adjusted. And you as the council have the authority to make those changes. So tonight I have two changes to present to you, and we'll then put it to you for direction. The first one is a policy that allows exempt employees under certain circumstances to be paid additional income if there is an event or something where we receive funding from some outside source. So let me give you a couple of examples. We have from time to time a company they rented the fairgrounds, Vivint, and for part of that, maybe they wanted to have police officers do some security work around the grounds, maybe help people cross the streets, and they pay for that. We have our city's needs in the police department, and we fill those with the shifts that we already have. Something at the fairgrounds would be in addition to that. So we might have 10 or 7 or 8, however many officers we have in the city out patrolling that particular night, but we might need 5 additional officers at the fairgrounds for this particular event. We put those out to our employees, they fill those shifts and basically work what you might think, or what we will call overtime to fill those shifts. Sometimes we can't find employees to fill those shifts. Maybe it's the hunt and people are not available. Maybe people have vacation plans for whatever reason. Our lieutenants will try to fill those shifts, and from time to time it's difficult. This policy then says if we can't fill those shifts with the officers, we can use those exempt employees, like a lieutenant, for example, to fill that shift. And if he or she fills that shift, they could be paid additional money. So an exempt employee does not receive overtime if they work 40 hours a week, 42 hours, 46, 48. We receive no additional pay as an exempt employee. But in this situation where there's outside money paying for all of those costs, this policy would say in that situation, for those hours, they could receive that additional pay. There are guidelines and conditions that have been set within this policy. Specifically, first, the exempt employees are not the first chance, they don't have the first crack at it. We give it to the officers in this example, or we give it to the parks employees, whatever that group may be, and only after we've tried once, maybe even twice, could the exempt employee have an opportunity to fill those shifts. And then we would pay the exempt employees at a straight time hourly rate and not at an overtime rate. Generally speaking, the exempt employees have a higher straight time rate when you calculate it out, so we would only pay that at the straight time rate. One thing that, in my example, I should have also given another one where we do receive some grants. We fill a number of shifts throughout the city for alcohol-related shifts in our police department. We do some alcohol compliance tests, as well as a few other things where we receive grants. We have from time to time left money on the table because we aren't able to fill all of the shifts that are asked or allocated to us. So this would give us the opportunity, maybe if we have an alcohol shift going unused, instead of saying, well, we won't have that enforcement this particular month, we could fill that shift if one of the other exempt employees could do that. So that's the change there. Again, the key in paragraph is really spelled out in paragraph A. That outside funding must be there. If it's not, then something like Fiesta Days, the exempt employees will continue to do that just as part of their normal job. There would be no additional pay, and they do that as a function of their city job. Any questions on this portion of the policy? These paragraphs?
Good.
Okay. The second one is on gifts, and this one expands a policy that we have that really is very restrictive in its language. It basically says, thou shalt receive no gifts whatsoever. And on the face, that is a great policy for the city to have, for its elected officials, for its employees, because gifts can certainly be meant to influence us
in the discharge of what we do. However, there are many occasions that you and I get to go to where ceremonial gifts are given, and it actually puts you in a little bit of conflict with the policy that we have. It's not in conflict with the law, but it is in conflict with our very restrictive policy. So you might receive, the mayor, I'm sure, well, I shouldn't say I'm sure, but it's possible. Let's suppose.
Let's go back to the suppose.
Hypothetically speaking, maybe a Councilman Gordon went to a certain business's opening, and let's say hypothetically he received it. I'm just kidding while he's taking a drink there. So you might have received something from the mayor of Westman Island in Iceland. In theory, in application of our old policy, receiving whatever that ceremonial gift is, it violates that policy. When in reality, that gift is not meant to influence in any way, but it is a goodwill gesture. And if the mayor said, "I can't take this, my policy doesn't allow it," it might cause.
I would never do that. I would never embarrass him.
Right. So this policy makes some adjustments there, but it keeps the strictness of receiving gifts that are meant to influence, and so it's a little bit longer. In paragraph D, it really hits home to the nature of what I'm talking about our old policy had, which was a gift meant to influence your decision is illegal. It's against this policy and probably against state statute, which is cited here. So we've tried to delineate that and provide a little bit of guidance where these things can be done. It also delineates in these gifts, for example, there may be some gifts that are given that really aren't yours, but they're meant to be given to the city. And this provides guidance where we would then keep those and have them on display, if you will. This provides guidance for that. Any questions on this policy?
I already have one.
He can have that gift.
He can have that gift. I'm sure it'll be
Mayor,
fine.
just give me a pin valued at
dollars.
What if Brandon eats $50 in excess of $50 of food that someone?
The policy addresses that. He
Okay.
probably have to go jog.
It gives some leeway to that, Mike. Read it.
If you can't produce the evidence, then that's not a problem.
He might produce it.
Yeah, well, Brandon has done that in the past. We've seen that.
Yes, we have seen that.
Didn't you hear why the restaurants aren't coming? It's because of alcohol consumption. But dessert consumption
It's okay.
is up.
Okay, so we need to, any questions on these policy changes? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
I move that we approve Resolution 15-17, amending the Spanish Fork City Employee Personnel Policy concerning gifts and exempt employees.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilman Scobes, a second by Councilman Mendenhall. This is an ordinance. We'll do roll call vote. Councilman Dart.
Aye.
Councilman Davis.
Aye.
Councilman Gordon.
Aye.
Councilman Mendenhall.
Aye.
Councilman Scobe.
Aye.
That passes. Okay.
I move that we go into closed session for reasonably imminent litigation, land transaction, and this one looks like a personnel issue.
Got a motion by Councilman Dart, a second by
Second.
Councilman Gordon. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That passes. Thank you for everyone that was here tonight. Appreciate that.